This is the Rookie Big Board Rookie Profile Series. I'm your host, Matt Hicks, the FF Educator, joined by John Lobb, the Gridiron Scholar. This is the Roschon Johnson Rookie Profile. John, it's not the running back out of the University of Texas, but it is a very important running back to talk about here out of the University of Texas. You cannot skip over this running back when you're truly trying to understand that mid-round value at the position. So let's go ahead and get into it here with Roschon Johnson.
When we did our Senior Bowl profile series at the running back position, we broke down Roschon Johnson in advance, and we had said the NFL is going to like Roschon Johnson more than the fantasy community is expecting. Obviously, the size, 6'0", 219, matters to the NFL. But Matt, the tape is impressive on limited carries. He's an uber athlete, and I really like this young man. He's in my top 10. He is a great option in the third round of your dynasty drafts. And do not worry about him being at Texas behind a generational talent like Bijan Robinson. I went back, Matt, in my lifetime just to name some of the dynamic backfield duos. Eric Dickerson, Craig James at SMU. Ronnie Brown, Cadillac Williams at Auburn. A couple years ago, Javonte Williams, Michael Carter at UNC. The NFL is comfortable drafting two backs from the same school if both of them have shown promise. Roschon Johnson happened just to play behind the best running back in this class. In high school, he was a four-star prospect, but Matt, he was a dual threat quarterback in 2018, and he was an All-American at the position. So he walks on early at Texas in January of 2019. What's amazing, as a true freshman, Matt, he produced his most productive season on campus. He had 649 rushing yards, 23 catches for 158 yards, and 8 scores. He was also 2 times named the Big 12 Newcomer of the Week. I mean, he really had a stupendous freshman season. However, a young man named Bijan Robinson came onto campus in 2020, and that relegated the Roschon to a backup role second on the depth chart. He remained there for all 3 years, but Matt, I give the young man credit. He never transferred out of Texas. He could have gotten himself 250 carries at almost any other institution in the country, but he remains a Longhorn. He was a 4-year competitor. He played in 47 games, and he started 5 times. He surpassed 100 yards rushing 5 times, and he had a career-high 31 carries for 179 yards against Kansas State in 2021. He only had 3 games with over 20 carries, but he did finish his career as the 18th all-time leading rusher at Texas. Matt, he comes in the NFL with not a lot of wear and tear on his tires. He's essentially a fresh running back. I talked about the Senior Bowl preview show. When he went to the Senior Bowl, he impressed onlookers, scouts, observers. They raved about his pass blocking. And what I've read, this is important to me, he was the team leader. The Longhorns loved this young man. The coaching staff loved him. Matt, does your film breakdown love Roschon Johnson?
Absolutely does, John. Roschon Johnson is an excellent combination of size and athleticism. He's a powerful back. He fights through defenders while displaying great contact balance, John. Really solid lower body strength. He's an aggressive runner. He hits the hole hard. But, it sounds almost like I'm profiling a certain, power forward type back, John. But he's fluid. He's more than just that. He is fluid into his cuts, through his cuts. He's got quick footwork. He's quick enough, John, that he does beat linebackers to the edge, and he's elusive enough to make defensive backs miss one-on-one in space. He also works really well in a phone booth, right? So he's able to shake defenders in tight space. And he was used on special teams. He was a kick returner for Texas. And as you mentioned, John, a reliable, consistent run blocker. So here we are here with a player who has the size that you're looking for. He can play on special teams. He's a reliable pass blocker. And you can rely on him in between the tackles. And he's not a bad pass catcher either, John. He wasn't, used overly as a pass catcher. But so he's really well rounded. So what do I expect? Well, jumping the gun a little bit here in terms of NFL fit. I'm excited about how he fits into the NFL. We'll get into that. Need to be fair here. Look at the weaknesses on his tape. I do think he has limited top end speed, right? He's not going to be a pure burner like a Jahmyr Gibbs, right? But you don't need to be. He's fast enough. I don't think that's going to hinder his ability to produce at the NFL level. And he has limited explosiveness. He doesn't fire off the line of scrimmage as consistently as you would like. And I think, so there's some guys, once they get to the second level, they'll hit like a second or third gear. I think Roschon Johnson gives you what he has consistently. And I think that's valuable, but he's not going to have that second gear of explosiveness working downfield. So those are the limitations. That's, John, why he's not in that top tier of running backs. But for all of his strengths, he makes for a really solid late day 2 type running back that NFL front offices are just absolutely going to love. And we always got to balance the tape out, John, with the numbers.
And sometimes when you analyze players, Matt, I think you have to look at the sum is greater than the individual parts. And I think you referenced it very well. Maybe he doesn't have top end explosion or long speed, but he does so many other things well. And again, if you are a production model savant and you're going to stay with your model, you're going to underrate Roschon Johnson. And that's why I think what we're doing as a show is so good, because we're trying to combine the tape with the numbers to give you a better picture. Roschon Johnson, I look at the model, it's impressive, but there's some real big holes in it, right? Obviously, size is great. We love that. 5.6 yards a carry. That's very solid, especially for a big running back who doesn't have a lot of 80-yard jaunts on his tape. Rushing yards for 4 years on campus. You look at 2190. That's not unbelievable by any stretch. His biggest workload ever, I mentioned it, was as a freshman. 2019 was only 807 yards, but let's put it in context. Bijan Robinson was the star of the Longhorns team the last 3 years. Scrimmage yards dominator. Matt, how are you going to dominate with Bijan on the team 13%? You mentioned his pass catching. He's not Bijan. There's no question. When you watch the Longhorns, Bijan's so good. We talked about it. Go watch our episode on him a long time ago, I think 7 weeks ago. But Roschon Johnson is a competent back. And one thing I like about him, he ran some wildcat. You can see his quarterback skills on tape and in the games. You can do a lot of things with this young man near the goal line. Matt, what your fantasy footballers know about Roschon?
Yeah, so I haven't projected John as a day 2 late pick. I think that's probably a little above consensus, but I feel very confident with him going in that pick 51 to 102 range. For me, John, he profiles perfectly as the running back too for an NFL team, right? Look at a team like the Giants. That's one spot I've put him in a mock draft in a lot, right? You have, as a Giants fan, I love Saquon Barkley, but, he spent time on the field, off the field. We're not sure long-term what that looks like. Picture, I know Alexander Madison is back for Minnesota, but, picture him in that type of situation as well, where you just know you have a really solid, consistent guy. And for a fantasy purposes, that means that if opportunity arises through a transaction or through an injury, all of a sudden you have a guy who has the framework and the skill set to be able to pick up 225, 250 touches, which if you can draft him, John, where I expect him to go, which is an early 3rd round rookie draft selection, 301 to 304, I mean, that's how you win leagues, right? Like those are the money picks right there. So I do have Roschon Johnson in what I call my flex filler tier, John, which is your, running back 3-4s in the right situation. They're going to really smash. And here's the comp that I love from a fantasy value comp, right? I think Roschon Johnson is who we've wanted AJ Dillon to be over the last couple of years in terms of that guy that is just has that propped up, like if something happens, fantasy football value, or maybe he'll win the job this year. I think Roschon Johnson has that, but might have a little bit better shot of winning the job, John. But nobody's going to have a better shot at winning their fantasy football championships than the rookie big board patrons, John. They can use the 95 plus page rookie guide. They can use the rankings, the rookie big board Discord, talk to us, get personalized advice on their rosters. You're going to want to make sure to head on over to patreon.com/rookiebigboard, and you can get in on that action starting for just $3 a month. It's draft season. Now is the time to get in on it and take advantage of the resource. And as always, we appreciate you checking out this episode of the Rookie Big Board.